Shalom everyone, and today we're going to start to study Parashat BeHa'alot'kha, and you can find it if you have the Bible, the book of Numbers, chapter 8, verse 1. וידבר אדוני עם משה לאמור, דבר אל אהרון ואמרת אליו, בהעלותך את הנרות אל מול פני המנורה יאירו שבעת הנרות. This is a verse that is almost impossible to translate into English, because it's very hard to understand even in Hebrew. And it says like this, דבר אל אהרון, speak to Aaron, ואמרת אליו and tell him, בהעלותך את הנרות. Okay, and the word is BeHa'alot'kha, which means, it's one word in Hebrew, but it means in English, when you raise, okay, when you raise the candles, and that means in Hebrew, lighting the candles. But to light the candle, you have another word, which is BeHa'alot'kha. BeHa'alot'kha. Why using the word BeHa'alot'kha et hanerot, which is coming from the shoresh alo, to ascend. When you ascend, when you make the candles ascend. So you could say, you know, when you light the candle and you put the fire on the wick, then the flame of the candle starts to ascend upwards. So that's a nice, true commentary or translation. But then comes the rest of the verse, and it says, El mul penei hamenorah ya'iru shivat hanerot. In front of the face of the menorah, the candelabra, the 7 candles menorah that was there in the temple, ya'iru shivat hanerot, the 7 candles will shine, will light. Again, when you raise the candles, the 7 candles will shine, will give their light in front of the menorah. Now, this is grammatically and also logically a problem. Why? Because it should have said, in the menorah, the 7 candles will shine. What does it mean that the 7 candles will shine in front of the face of the menorah? And then verse 3, Vayas ken Aaron, so Aaron did so, El mul pnei menorah ela nerotea. Aaron brought up, he raised up the candles like the Creator told Moses. Okay? What is the story over here? Why do we have to say that he did it? Of course he will do it. You know, God tells you, do this and this. You know, light the candle. You go light the candle. You don't ask questions. Right? That's what Aaron did. What's the story over here? So we continue. Verse 4. Veze maaseh menorah. And this is the art of the making of the menorah. Miksha zahav adirechat picha mikshai. The whole menorah, the whole 7 candles thing, was made of one piece of gold. One mold. Okay? כמראה אשר ראה אדוני את משה, כן עשה את המנורה. Moses made the menorah, the candelabra, the 7 candles, the way God showed him. And it was not easy. How do you make such a sophisticated piece of art, one mold, one piece, not many pieces connected together? Okay? So these are the questions involved. And of course, there are so many secrets involved in this story because of the menorah, and it's really important for us understanding this part of our lives, this part, this era, this part of the history of humanity, and to understand the main concept of what are we doing here, human beings in a physical body on earth. So we know that lighting the candles in the menorah was a very important uh, part of the temple work, but it's not a very difficult thing. And basically that stayed, because whenever you go, let's say in ancient archaeological diggings in Israel, you find from the ancient times the menorah was one of um, the most common artifacts that you find as a symbol. They use that symbol everywhere. Okay? Even today, the symbol of the state of Israel is the menorah. So the question is, and I think this is also the Haftarah, the readings of the prophet after the parasha. Yeah, in the Haftarah, which is after the reading in Shabbat morning, reading Parashat BeHa'alot'kha, we read from the book of Zechariah, chapter 2, verse 14, to chapter 4, verse 7. And if you read chapter 4, verse 1, and it says in the book of Zechariah, Vayashav HaMalach HaDover bi, and the angel who was talking to me woke me up, ויראני כאיש אשר יאור משנתו, ויאמר אלי, מה אתה רואה? And he asked me, what do you see? ואומר, ראיתי והנה מנורת זהב, and I saw a golden candelabra, זהב כולה, it's all completely gold, גולה על ראשה ושבעה נרותיה עליה, and there are 7 candles on the menorah. ושניים זיתים עליה, and 2 olive branches, one from the right and one from the left. Okay? And that's why if you look at the symbol of the state of Israel, the national symbol, it's the menorah, golden menorah, one orange branch, one olive branch on the right and one olive branch on the left. And that's this vision from Zechariah and from this parasha is still 33 centuries later on, the symbol of a state, one of the states of the United Nations members. Okay, so what is that menorah? What's so strong about the menorah that basically lighting the menorah is not such a big deal? You put olive oil and you light it. Okay, but we have another memory, which is Hanukkah. We read the same Haftarah on Hanukkah, and the Hanukkah, the symbol of Hanukkah is the menorah, the lighting of the menorah. Nothing about the offering, the sacrifices, and other temple work. Wow, what's so special about the menorah that is somehow following us so many centuries, so many eons later? Okay, so let us try to understand it. And the Zohar is explaining, and let us see what the Zohar is teaching us, because that's maybe one of the most important lessons we could ever learn, and that will also give us the answer about why is it that the richest countries in the world, the most comfortable countries in the world, in which you would think people here are supposed to be the happiest people on the planet, because they have access to medical treatment, they have access to education, they have access to free movement, access to knowledge, whatever, and still you see that the top countries in the happiness index of the UN, they also lead as the top consumers of antidepressants, which means somebody is selling us nonsense. How could that be? And the answer, we will read that in the Zohar of this parasha, the beginning of Parashat BeHa'alot'kha. I won't start from the beginning, we don't have time. We will start in verse 7 in the Zohar, Parashat HaSulam, Perush HaSulam. And it says as follows, תחה זה, באו לילה דבעה קודשה בכו לקטלה, כל עינון בכורי כמה דהתמר, בשעתה דרמס לילה, אתו מזמרין לזמר קמי. אמר לון, לאו ידענו דהה שירתה אחרה, מזמרין בני בערה. Translation. Come and see. On that night, that God wanted to kill all the firstborns of Egypt, as the night fell down, angels came to sing in front of God and praise him. God told the angels, it's not the time to sing right now because my children are singing another song in the physical land, in the earth. Okay, continue. בשעתה התפלג לילה, התאה רוח צפון, וקודשה בכו כדין אבד נוקמין, וישראל אבדין שירתה בקול רם, וכדין אבד לון בני חורין מקולה, ומלאכין ילאי כל משיריין כולו, הבו צייטין להון לקליהן ישראל. When the midnight arrived, a wind awoke from the north, and then there was a time of revenge against the Egyptians. And all the firstborns of Egypt died. At the same time, and the Israelites were singing all night long, loud. And then God made them free of anything that creates death. ומלאכים עליונים, and the divine angels, וכל מחנות העליונים כולם, and all the armies of the divine angels, all of them were listening to the voice of the Israelites. After they were circumcised, they took the blood of the circumcision and they mixed it with the blood of the Passover lamb. And after they mixed the two bloods, they made 3 signs on the door. The famous signs. One sign was on the doorpost, one on the right, one on the left, and as we learn in Parashat Bo, that was the whole doorpost above, the whole mezuzah, which means the doorpost on the right, and part of the doorpost on the left that is not connected to the top. And you got the letter Hey. That's how you write the Hebrew letter Hey. And that means that they got protection. That's what the Zohar is teaching us. But why do you need to mix the two bloods together? הרי העמידו, we learned already, משום שהוא רושם קדוש ומחבל, so it says that the angel of death, when he saw that blood on the opening, he had mercy for Israel. As it says, ופסח השם על הפתח, and God passed over the opening. That's why it's called the holiday of Passover, because he passed over the door, and the Israelites lived, and the Egyptians lost their firstborns. But then we have to ask a question, the Zohar says. We have to look at it again. Why? Because if the Creator himself came and he killed in Egypt, and not a messenger, because it says so, I'm not a messenger, okay? I'm not an angel. So the question is like this. We know that the Creator, he knows it all. And still it says, V'lo yiten hamashchit, and there was an angel of death. Okay? Why did it say that God did not allow the destroyer to destroy the firstborns of Israel? Verse 9, אלא ודאי כך הוא, שכתוב והשם יקע כל בכור. It says, and Hashem, and God, hit all the firstborns. When it says, and God, it means that two. Who are those two? And he's saying, Hashem uvei dino. God and his court, place of judgment. So there were two forces involved. Mercy, love, and kindness on one side, and judgment on the other side. Okay? So the question is again, if God Almighty knows it all, can't he tell the difference between a house of an Egyptian and a house of an Israelite? Okay? And why do you need to mark the opening, the door, with blood? And why that blood is not, it cannot be chicken's blood or anything else. It has to be the blood of the circumcision and the blood of the lamb all together. We understand there is something deeper over here. And here the Zohar wants to teach us something very important. And he says as follows, verse 10, Zeu b'maaseh. We need, בכל מקום צריכים להראות מעשה למטה. I'm going back to verse 9. It's like you need, in order to have God's light, you need to make a physical action in this physical domain in order to awaken God's light. For instance, Shabbat is coming. Shabbat enters. What do you need to do? You need to light physical candles, not meditative candles, physical candles. Why? Because the candles call in the presence of Shabbat into the house. Okay? So usually it's the lady of the house doing that. If the woman is not in the house, so the man has to light the Shabbat candles. The whole thing is you need to have a physical action on the physical mundane world to bring things into manifestation. So the same thing over here. In order to have mercy protecting the Israelites, they needed a physical action. Now, why the blood? We have to remember that there were two bloods. It says, and the two bloods there was the blood of the lamb, that was the blood of judgment, left column, judgment. And there was the blood of the circumcision, and that blood was a blood of loving kindness, chesed. And when you mix them together, you create the central column. That's why on the door, we had three marks. One on the top, one on the right, one on the left. Right, left, central column. When you have the power of central column, let us give an example. Okay? You are finishing building your home, and then, thank God, they finally connected to the grid of the power company in your neighborhood. Now, if all the forces, all the wires in your household and the appliances, if they are aligned properly, which means the right color, the minus, the plus, and the central are all aligned properly, the moment you go on the grid, you can have light, you can have warming, you have cooling, you have oven, you have ironing, you have so many activities you can generate with the power of electricity. However, in case in one place there's no balance, there will be a short circuit that can create a lot of chaos. Fire, explosions, or, things like this happen all the time. Why? Because when a huge amount of power is your connection, if you're not aligned properly, that power can go bad. Okay? Whose fault is this? It's not a matter of fault, it's a matter of, if you go by the code, then you can use that awesome power instead of that awesome power, getting your house burned. So it's not about that the power is good or evil. The power is power. What do you do with that? That is your choice, and that is what is the definition of free will, you make it very clear. If it's going to create a disaster, it's going to create a higher level standard of living, this is up to you. Okay, so another thing, somebody has opened a business, and you know what? Very successful. Lot of demand. His products are really, the value you give to the customer is so good. Okay, so when a lot of people come and a lot of people pay, but it's not balanced. More people pay than the service you can offer. What will happen? There will be too many people not being served, and then people are going to be upset and they're going to sue you. So in the beginning, it looks like, oh, there's a lot of business. But if the amount of value you can give is exactly matching the amount of money you're collecting, then you are having a viable business. But if you collect more than value you can give, you have a problem sooner or later, and then usually sooner, something is going to turn out bad, right? So sometimes you take so much money, but you don't like the idea of spending it. So you don't give so much value. As long as, sometimes the moment you give the money to the person who gives you the service, sometimes it's, forget about him. He's too busy, he has another job, till he comes to give you and offer you his services, but you paid already. That's the problem. Some people, the moment you pay them already, you won't see them anymore. Why? You already paid. Why do they have to be bothered about you? Now they have to be bothered by people who are like thinking, maybe should I pay, maybe I should take the business or not. So they invest in what? In those people didn't pay yet. People paid already, they don't invest in them. So what do you have? Calamity. That sooner or later will be a destruction. Okay, so, but you need to create a vessel to basically be activated by the power. Money comes in, more money comes in, what do? You hire more people, okay, to give better service. If you stay with the same manpower and you give the same amount of service as before, now you have more people paying, but the same people are serving, you have a problem. Okay, so again, here we are talking about, in order to be able to tap into power properly without any damage, that has to be balanced. So that's why the blood, we're talking here connecting on Passover to the awesome power of Sefirat Chokhmah. Never in history before, never after, there was such a huge revelation of spiritual light. So the Israelites, they created the method of basically accumulating that energy, and by still staying protected. That was by not eating the leavened bread, by eating the matzah, the bitter herbs, and the lamb. So the result was they were set free. The Egyptians, who did not take those actions, their firstborns died. So the same amount of power, again, let's go to the power company. For one household, this is a blessing. For another household, this is a curse. Okay, for the Israelites, that was a blessing. The Egyptians, that was a curse. So what do? Every holiday, for instance, which is called Mikrai Kodesh, calling the holiness in, we need, the Zohar says, to show an action, a physical action, in order to awaken a light, spiritual light from the above. And you need to have the awareness for that. So on Rosh Hashanah, it is the shofar, the horn that we blow, in order to awaken the upper shofar, which is Sfirat Binah, the source of life. Okay? In the shofar, we use judgment and loving kindness all together, because the shofar for the awakening the power of chesed, loving kindness, That's the long blow. In order to awaken the judgment, it's two, two, two. It's divided into three. When you want to awaken the harsh judgment, it's broken into many. Two, 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 two. When you want to awaken the central calm that will balance them, you blow again two. If you have that in mind, you are really basically sending to the universe codes, and these codes are awakening the power of what is called reconnection to God, rejuvenation. Okay, so that's how it works. Now, after Rosh Hashanah, we have Yom Kippur. In Yom Kippur, we connect to the power of God in a different way. How do we connect? We are fasting, we are praying, okay? And that's the way for us to connect to that light. 5 days later, we have Sukkot. How do we bring in the light? We build huts. Can you imagine? You have to build huts in order to bring that light in. That's called Sukkah. And then you shake a lulav, a etrog, all kinds of vegetables. You shake them with the right meditation, and then you create energy of support and protection. So every holiday has a Mikrei Kodesh, calling their holiness in. It has to be a physical action under a very certain code. When you build a sukkah, there is a code. How do you build a sukkah? But I just built a hut. If you build the hut not in a kosher way, by the way, what kosher means. Kosher, Americans say kosher means clean. No, it doesn't mean like this in Hebrew. Kosher means something that is fit for use. For instance, when, if you live in America, let's say, and you want your body to be fit, you go to a fitness place, right? In Israel, you go to a kosher center. It's called kosher center. Why? Because kosher means fitness. So when somebody, an Israeli, goes to the gym, he says to his wife, okay, I'm going to do kosher. Nothing to do with food. It means fitness. Okay, I hope this is clear. Use the word kosher. It doesn't mean anything about eating meat or milk together, not together. I'm going to do kosher. That's how you say it in Hebrew. It means fitness. So when you say that this is a kosher sukkah or a kosher shofar or kosher lulav, it means it is going by code and it's capable of hacking into God's network. That's what kosher means. Okay? Fit to connect. Now, so therefore, we come to verse 11 in the Zohar. תחזי בשעתה דחנה התכוון להדלקה בוצינין לטאטה, והווה קריב קטורת בוסמים, והוא שעתה דקדין בוצינין אלאין נהרין, וכתר קולה כחדה, וחדו וחדבתה ישתכח בכולו עלמין. הדר תכתיב שמן וקטורת ישמח לב. Translation. Come and see. When the Kohen, the priest in the temple, meditated, which means the word is nitkaven. Kavana in Hebrew means, again, that's a word that you need a whole sentence to explain. Kavana in Hebrew means to meditate, to concentrate, to really mean that, to know the meaning behind it, and to have a devotion for it. That's the word kavana. That's why there's no word in Hebrew for meditation. Because meditation is like a little kind of miserable tale of the concept kavana. Kavana is meditating, yes, meaning really wanting, devoting for it, knowing the intention and knowing the background behind it. Okay? So the word meditation is kind of a tiny corner of the meaning kavana. So in Hebrew, you use the word kavana. Okay. So when the Kohen did the kavana to light the candles below. What does it mean? He knew when he's lighting, igniting the physical candles in the physical golden menorah, he knew that he's doing an action below in order to awaken something above. What does it mean above? How much above? 2 meters? 2 kilometers? Maybe 40,000 feet? What does it mean above? So when we say above, we mean in the world beyond our physical senses. The same thing, says the Zohar, happened when he was offering the incense. The incense had 11 ingredients. Why 11? Those 11 ingredients had the power to awaken the power of protection, okay, and eliminating whatever negative energy there is. אז באותה שעה, then on that time, מאירים נרות עליונים. The supreme candles are shining, which are the Sefirot. And we explained already when we spoke about the counting of the Omer, that in Hebrew, it's a game of words. When you say Sephirah, it means in Hebrew counting, but it means also illuminating, which means there are illuminations. Each one of them is shining in a different count, in a different frequency. Those are the Sephirot of the tree of life. Okay? And when the Kohen was lighting the physical candles, he knew by his intention, knowing, devotion, and concentration, he knew that when he lights the physical flame, he needs to concentrate to awaken the spiritual flame of that sphira that he is lighting. Only when you do that, you make that happen. Okay? And the result will be that the Kohen would light the menorah, the physical candles, but he would concentrate with devotion to awaken the spiritual sefirot by doing that, the divine candles. ונקשר הכל יחד. And when he did it, everything was connected as one. And what happens when you are connecting everything as one? It's called in Hebrew yichud, unification. This is the main pillar of spirituality. I think that in the Far East they call it bhakti. In the Middle East it's called yichud, or in Arabic tawahid. It's bringing everything to be one. What does it mean to be one? When you use your mind and your heart in every action to unite the divine and the mundane, the above and the below. You really have the intention, the desire, the concentration, kavanah, the ambition, also kavanah, to unite the universe of the soul with the universe of the body. We are not here in this physical world just to live in the physical world. We're here in this world to ascend above the five senses reality, which is totally a bluff, because the five senses reality exists only in our imagination. When you look at the person, what do you see? The whole person? No. That's why we call it the concept of the tree of life. You look at the tree, standing in the middle of a big lawn. Nothing grows around the tree. You look at this amazing, beautiful tree, and you think you see the whole tree. And somebody asks you, do you see the whole tree? You know, the first thought is, of course I do. Then you think, just a second, I cannot see the roots. You look at the person. Do you see the person? Of course. Do you see the roots? Do you see the soul? No, I don't see the soul. Oh, so you don't see the whole person. You are in the concept of realizing that you see only a shadow of the tree. What does it mean, a shadow of the tree? What our five senses can perceive, that's a shadow of what the tree is, even on the physical level. When you look at the tree, do you see the whole tree? The tree is made of different parts, and each part is made of cells, and the cells are made of substructures and so on. Do you see that? Do you see the atoms the tree is made of? No. So how much of the tree you really see? Just with your physical senses. A very small fraction, that's called a shadow. You don't see what's going on inside the tree. You look at the person. Let's say you are a doctor. You look at the person. Can you see the whole person? No. How do you know? Because you come to the doctor and you tell him your problem. He sends you to a CT, X-ray, this kind. Why? Because he cannot see. And how many times he will look at the X-rays, he will look at the CT, and he won't be able to decipher it properly. He cannot see. Another, let's say, radiologist will look at it later on and say, oh, here it is. Nobody saw it before, but here it is. It was there all the time. Happens all the time. To show what? We humans are very limited. However, in order to be the divine creatures we need to become, we need to come down to a physical body, and we need to learn that what we see is partial. We need to learn to educate our brain, to rewire our brain all our lives, to be able to think of the two planes at once. That's called yichud. Being in the two planes. You light a physical candle in the menorah as a high priest, or as a woman lighting the Shabbat candle at home, or you light your Hanukkah candles, and you should be thinking that by lighting that physical candle, you are right now like pushing a button to awaken a spiritual entity that the physical eye cannot see. But if you train yourself enough, you will start feeling the flow of that illumination. It's not a physical light. It's a spiritual light. If you do not train yourself to be that person that activates that spiritual light every time, every day, in everything you do, that activates spiritual forces, that everything you do has two aspects, the mundane, physical aspect, and the spiritual. If you know that, you can understand what we just experienced. We experienced the Mount Sinai revelation. What is the big deal of saying do not steal? The laws of Egypt did not allow to steal. The laws of Babylonia, Mesopotamia did not allow to steal. So, you go to the university and all the smart guys in the university, they're so smart. They're so smart that they get a big salary. Convincing somebody to pay you for whatever you convince them that that's very smart. But they're not wise. Because what they say, so what's the big deal, Mount Sinai revelation? They just copied it from the Egyptians and the Babylonians. No, it was not. In Egypt and Babylonia, in their ancient cultures, it was not allowed to steal. You know why? Because then the government cannot steal from you. When people live in a chaotic society, and you know that the neighbors will steal whatever a fortune you accumulate, you don't have any incentive to accumulate fortune. And then when the government comes to take from you taxes, you have nothing to give them. Look around. Whatever you find, pick it up. Why? Whatever I had, the Bedouin stole from me, the neighbor stole from me, that guy stole from me, I have nothing left. What do you want from me? So in places in which a human being does not really have the right for his property, he has no incentive to accumulate property, and the country will be poor. You know, every country became socialist in the last century. Sooner or later, those countries became very, very poor and went bankrupt. Why? Because socialism is a mass stealing from the people without rewarding them. So Venezuela, when it became socialist, was one of the richest countries in the world. Poof, it's gone. Soviet world, the amount of lands, the richness of those lands, the all the elements they could dig. There was so much, and the quality of the people. Why they were so poor? People had no incentive to accumulate fortune because, you know, the upper elite communist regime, they stole everything. Okay? So they went bankrupt. That's how they were defeated. So, same thing was in Egypt, same thing was in Mesopotamia. You do not allow people to steal from each other. So the government can come to you by the end of the year and take the taxes. That's very simple. Which means when it says do not steal in Egypt or in Mesopotamia, it means we, the government, we are the only one stealing here. Okay? Remember that. When it came to Mount Sinai, when it says do not steal, it said very clearly, very simply, the money that you want to take or to gain, to accumulate, or the commodities, all of these have two dimensions, the physical and the spiritual. Money is not a goal, money is a mean. Having property is not a goal, it is a mean. There are some people who have beautiful homes and a lot of money, and they are very happy people. And there are some people, they have a lot of money, beautiful homes, and they're miserable. What's the difference? When is that when you accumulate money and property, and you're happy, and you feel that you did something, when does that fulfill you when it's not? Oh, when you steal, you cannot steal good fortune. So the big deal of Mount Sinai was, even if the tax authorities are not after you, even though nobody knows you had the perfect crime, you cheated other people, you cannot cheat the spiritual energy inside the money, the property, the commodities, everything that you accumulated. If you do not accumulate it in an honest way, there's no spiritual light in it. There's no blessing in it. There's no good fortune in it. So yes, on the outside, it will look like you have a lot, but really, you won't feel you have anything. You won't feel. And therefore, we need, when you make money, you need to do tithing, you need to share, you need to do it honestly, you need to give a service in order to get paid. What if you get paid and you don't give the service? That's stealing. Therefore, you have the Talmud, and the Talmud gives you a whole range of when is that connected to stealing and when is it honest, because you know there's all kinds of borders that are not that clear. What does it mean being honest? Okay? What does it mean? I sold somebody a shoe. The shoe is worth $10. Okay? I convinced him that that shoe is a really expensive brand. I sold it for $200. Is that honest? Some people say if the person who bought it was convinced and is excited it's a very, expensive brand and he paid the $200, he's a problem. There is a problem with that, because the moment you cheat the person to sell him a product and that's not its worth. So how far can you ask for the money? So the Talmud goes, how much you can ask for more? There is a competition. Sometimes you say, he sells online. I'm having a store in a very expensive mall. I have to put all my expenses in that. Okay, all of that you really have to understand that playing the game of making money is not, you can't just do whatever you feel like, because you are playing with the rules of the universe. That was the big thing on Mount Sinai revelation. The governments in the ancient world never meant to be honest. They just lived, all of these governments along the generations were about how do I take as much as possible without getting the people too poor, although in some countries, sometimes the rulers became so greedy, they were slaughtering the geese laying golden eggs, which means they took so much that people had no incentive to create. So sometimes you see a country, a state, now they have governors being sent everywhere. The governors come to rule basically for a few years. They know they have few years to rob the country. Whatever is left for the one coming after them. So, if a government wants to accumulate money, you have to invest in roads, security. What happens? People feel secure, they feel they are supported, so they have incentive to work hard to create wealth. Okay? But if you don't understand the simple idea of do not steal, you just take as much as you can, and then you see impoverished countries all over the world. So you see, what's the difference between this country and this country and this country? We have so many countries on this planet that have resources, natural resources, that are so rich, they're so immense, and the people are poor. And there are countries in which they don't have any natural resources, but people in those countries, they feel supported, and therefore they are very talented in making wealth because of the support of the government and whatever is around. And then they believe in the idea of honesty and do not steal, do not kill, because they realize that when you are in a higher state of consciousness, you realize you're not doing anybody a favor if you do not steal. You're just doing it to yourself. You cannot steal happiness. You cannot steal real good fortune. You cannot steal success. You cannot steal pleasure. You can steal physical assets, physical money. But as we spoke about the candles, that's in the temple. No, this is in everyday's life. Everything you do has two dimensions. When you do not really have kavanah to work on two dimensions at the same time in everything you do, don't be surprised that you'll find depleted. But look, why am I depleted? I have the most beautiful house. I have the nicest cars. I go to the gym every day. I'm in such a good fitness, everything. Why am I miserable? And the answer is, you are empty. You're just void and empty shell. It's just the empty shell that is totally empty of anything. And you go around like, why am I not happy? Because you're not connected to the light. That we are creatures of light. Whatever we are looking for is spiritual light. That spiritual light, you need to train yourself daily, hourly. That's called the yichud. You have to train your brain, your physical brain, your spiritual mind, your mental ability to realize that whatever you do, you work on two dimensions at the same time. Physical world and the spiritual world, and you have to be loyal to both at the same time. So therefore, when it's all connected together, says the Zohar, then you have simcha, happiness, chedva, joy, all over the worlds, the spiritual and the physical. Okay, this is a major lesson So the Torah, some people think that the Torah, Mount Sinai, Revelation, it's a religious document. What a terrible, miserable, fake idea. No, it's not. The Torah says very clearly, you want to live? These are the laws how to attach to life. Life is made of two aspects, two dimensions. You need to have a fit body, but inside that fit body, you need a fit soul. You need to work on both dimensions. That, when you do that, when you unite the two, then there's a flow and the result will be happiness. Why is it that people today are not happy? They're simply trained since childhood to work only in one dimension, and we have a massive denial, even to a psychotic problem, denial of the spiritual realm. When people say I'm atheist, what do you mean? There's only a body, and let's use that body as much as we can because you live only once. Okay? Lie, lie after lie. You don't live only once. You don't have only a body. And what really makes you happy is not just physical things. There's so many researches were done. You go to work, you make the money, you come home. What makes people produce? What makes them productive? And you realize it's not the physical gain. It's the meaning. It's the vision. It's the feel that you're doing something bigger than yourself. If you don't train yourself and your children since young age that the world is not just money and the bottom line, you are raising a miserable generation. And let's see what the Zohar says about it. And the Zohar is warning. He's warning, if you read the Torah, and that's one of the most famous articles in the Zohar about warning, be careful. Do not make the Torah just a story. So if the Torah is a story, we can take so many stories in the folklore of so many nations and make it from them Torah. You know what? Some of the stories are much more beautiful than the stories of the Torah. And what you have in the Torah, you have also the words of Lavan and the words of Bilam and all of these, like, who are they? Why do you have to study their words? And the Zohar says everything in the Torah is a code in the physical domain, but it hints to a spiritual aspect in the world beyond. That's why when you study Torah, when you light Shabbat candles, when you, whatever you do, you light Chanukah candles, you make a blessing over the bread of Shabbat, you are not really doing one level thing. You have to concentrate that your brain, your mind, and your heart have to be connecting two universes together. The only creature in this universe that can do that connection, that can unite these two worlds, is the human being. We are the only ones who have that ability. Not doing that, that's denying our birthright as creatures of the divine, of magic. Why is it today the world is so materialistic, and you see what the most sold out movies are about? Fantasia. People are so deprived of imagination, fantasy, and metaphysics. They try to get it from somewhere. So either they try to get it from those kind of movies, or they go to all kinds of events of like all kinds, they try to revive all kinds of shamanic traditions. Look, it didn't work in the past, and it's not going to help you today. Okay? It's not. So what happened to religion? So the Zohar has something to teach us about it. The Zohar says that in our generation, that will be, we spoke about it before, but we have to understand it now. The Zohar has a very important explanation to that. It's a big story in the Zohar, but I'll read just one thing. The Zohar says in the messianic concept, in the last redemption of humanity, there is the concept of the two messiahs, the two kinds of Mashiach. One is Mashiach ben David, one is the Mashiach, the son of David, which means from the lineage of King David. The other one is Mashiach ben Yosef, from the lineage of Joseph. Why? We have to remember that Joseph was the leader of the sons of Rachel. Rachel was the symbol of the rulership of the physical world. Rachel was beautiful with beautiful eyes, which means we're talking about something that is beautiful that you can enjoy with your physical senses. We're talking about this mundane world. Leah, the legend is saying, Einei Leah rakot, her eyes were soft because they were covered with clouds of tears, because the legend says that she knew that Rachel was supposed to get married to the young one, Jacob, and the older one, Leah, supposed to get married to the old one, Esau. She heard that Esau was a villain, a murderer, a cheat, and a liar. She didn't want to marry him. So she cried to God all day long just to change her destiny. Finally, she married Jacob first, right? And she gave birth to 6 sons. The leader of those was Yehuda, and David came from him. So the lineage of David is coming from Leah. And Leah, what does it mean that her eyes were covered, veiled? The upper world, she was a chariot of connecting to the world to come. That was Leah. Rachel was this world. So Joseph, the Mashiach, the son of Joseph, is a symbol that in the world, when the Messianic era, when we are going to see amazing, plenty, bounty of everything, richness like we are today, we're in the golden era of humanity. Humanity has never been so spoiled like today. We can travel, we have freedoms we never had before. We're not perfect, but relatively, whoever says, oh, it's a terrible time. What did you take in the morning when you got up? Look, do you want to go to your great-grandmother's time? When the bathrooms were in the outside, in the snow? That's what you want? Or maybe you want to travel with a horse and buggy, okay? Or on terrible roads. You wanted to freeze in the winter and boil in the summer. What? With no air conditioning system, no cars, no airplanes. Do you want to go back to that? No cell phone? No access to freedom of information? Oh, it's not free today, but relatively to the past. Wow, we became so spoiled. And you know what? We want everything to be perfect right now, this moment. We're still in the evolutionary process. We're just getting better. Patience, hard work. But Mashiach ben Yosef is that the world is becoming rich with all access to making money, acquiring knowledge like never before. Here it is. But in the Zohar in Parashat BeHa'alot'kha calls this time Mashiach ben Ephraim. Why Ephraim? Ephraim was the son of Joseph. So why calling it Mashiach ben Ephraim and not Mashiach ben Yosef? The Zohar gives us a secret. Ephraim comes from the word Epher, ashes. Ashes? There's nothing drier than ashes. We live in an era, on one hand, we have everything. On the other hand, we have nothing. It is so dry of spirituality, so dry of meaningness, so dry of any values that are be above, like the old generations had. What's wrong with this time? Because that today, Kids are educated. It's all about human being is just a machine of chemicals. You know what happens when you think like this? That's how Nazism and communism came about. It's all evolution. So we'll kill the guys that, if you're a Nazi, we'll kill the homosexuals, the Jews, the gypsies, the retarded, the ones who are not stable. We'll kill them and we have much, much healthier society. Did that work? No, that was so sick, you can't even imagine. So the communists said, we'll kill all the greedy people. So Stalin killed 100 million of them. Mao killed many more, nobody knows how many, just to create a better society. Did that help? Oh my God, that was even worse. That was so horrible. How did they come to the idea that you really can kill people just to improve society? Only when you stop realizing that every human being has a divine soul. And you don't understand, do not kill and do not steal in the meaning that was given on Mount Sinai. No, it's not stealing. It's improving the race. It's improving society. What a hoax. This is such a lie. And how can you become so cruel to do something like this? Only in one way. One way. When you don't see divinity in everything, that's a flame. It's such an ashes that it brings total calamity, either in communism and Nazism, or in the modern society, in our modern world, that has no spiritual value to life. And then there's no spiritual value to doing business. So you can do business with people and you see there's no spark of humanity over there. It's all about the bottom line. And I know a lot of students of mine, they were very successful business people, and they told me, it's you can't enjoy doing business anymore. You can't trust anyone. They want the bottom line. They don't care about the spirit. They don't care about the meaning. They don't care about the real inner quality of honesty. So if I got a cheaper product and it was made by slave labor in China or in somewhere else in the Far East or in Africa or whatever, or there's so many places, who cares as long as it's cheap? This is what really is cruel in our world, and it's because of denying the spiritual dimension of everything, including merchandise. So our hope is to deliver the message that we are not living in one-dimensional world. It's a multi-dimensional world. It's a world of the tree of life. And if you're not connected to the tree of life, this is the tree of death. And it's a matter of simply life. Do you want to live? Or you want to die a long, painful death? Just because you are dry, devout, without any consciousness and awareness of the world above. Thank you so much, and good luck to us all.